But he went to TikTok and his starting salary was about $350K. Quite a while ago, we had one student, she came in with a master's or with a bachelor's degree in, I believe, Russian literature or something like that.
Wow.
But she had
It's
the minimum
close.
requirements. She turned out to be one of our best master's students.
Absolutely. Don't be judgmental, be curious.
My name is Jarosław Kareslak.
I'm Kamil Kramic.
I'm a professor of biostatistics at Indiana University in the United States.
I'm a supply chain expert with a focus on global transformation projects.
I primarily deal with more efficient use of data coming from medical experiments.
I'm passionate about leadership, continuous improvements, and culture in the global business landscape.
So just wanted to say that all the opinions in this podcast are our own and they do not represent the institutions that we're associated with.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Two Poles Not So Far Apart. As always, we're somewhere different. We were in Australia the last time. Well, actually, Jarek was in Australia the last time.
You were there virtually?
I was there virtually from my living room, but now we're in the wonderful London. Not so wonderful weather-wise, but otherwise really nice. We're really close to Russell Square in the heart of London over here, and we're here yet to have another yet really interesting conversation where the science world and the academic world and the business world actually meet together to find some interesting insights.
So we have a wonderful guest today. It's another interview that we're doing, and it's my colleague, friend for many years, Tim Johnson, and I'll let him introduce himself. But it's thank you again for agreeing to be on our podcast. We're very excited.
Thank you for inviting me.
So if you can introduce yourself, just say a bit about you.
My name is Tim Johnson. I'm a professor of biostatistics at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I've been there for 23 years now. And yeah, I do mostly imaging statistics, looking forward to retirement here in a few years.
Don't we all?
So bringing up that, I know you'd given me 3 topics to, maybe we could start discussing. One was career choices, one was imaging statistics, and one was the future of medical or biomedical research. So
all simple topics.
All very
we can start with the first one. I'm going to start now for any current or future students who might be watching this podcast. What you might do with a degree, a PhD or even a master's degree in biostatistics or statistics.
Right.
Obvious choices. First, you could go into academics and become a professor and work your tail off for many years before you see any fruits of your labor.
It's always great having you.
Yeah, it's always great
in such an optimistic way. That's what we did.
It is a lot of hard work as an assistant professor because you never know how promotions are going to go. But I'll just talk about the students I've had over the years. I've had a few go into academics, a few go into research centers like at children's hospitals or other hospital settings like Mass General in Boston. So there's the obvious choices. But more recently, a lot of students have been going to high-tech companies. We have people go to Apple, Google, Amazon.
TikTok.
Most recently, we were discussing this earlier. Student who just graduated. I was on his dissertation committee. I wasn't his dissertation advisor, but he went to TikTok and his starting salary was about $350K.
Yeah, which is that's in American dollars. That's not
yes,
like
U.S. dollars. Yes.
Well, in any currency, it's actually making
not Korean won.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Or not all Italian liras. But
you're actually right.
So yeah, it's a great starting salary, but he's probably working more than 8 hours a day. Other choices are pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies.
Okay.
But yeah, the options are wide open now, especially with companies wanting people who can do neural network programming and AI programming, and they need statistics as well. So TikTok, what do they do at TikTok? Do they make videos? Obviously not. But TikTok and these other big companies have big AI engines that they use to target advertising to people based on what content you're looking at. So,
And would you say, because you say what sort of advice you'd have or a comment to the students or the students on PhD and other people, is it like we are planning an interesting conversation around choosing your career and how AI changed it right now, and how do you need certain skills, or how does certain skill set now changes if you want to do career in tech, companies, and it's actually from what you're saying, it goes more from the actual programming or the skill set in actually writing the code more into, I guess, understanding the statistics or the models behind it to learn and more. Would you agree that's slightly where I'm getting with this is basically, is it better to go statistics now rather than programming to become, to have a nice salary in a tech company, or is it still the other way around? Both.
If you want to go to high tech, probably an advanced degree in computer science would get you in the door quicker.
And there are also fields in between. Yes,
there are
like
fields.
The machine learning, the data science.
And I did forget one field that a person with a stat MS or maybe even a bachelor's degree or PhD could go into is the government sector. So you work for the NIH or in the United States National Institutes of Health, or the Food and Drug Administration, or the CDC. Over here would be the National Health Service, I guess.
Right. Okay.
So there's the government options as well.
I don't know what it would be.
I wouldn't go to work there, but
you wouldn't work there. You wouldn't. Okay.
The thing is, so this was great what you said about kind of career choices for students, but if you didn't mind going through like kind of your career, because I know you started.
I will. That's why I said I'm going to start here and kind of go backwards.
Absolutely.
But one thing I just thought of I wanted to bring up as well is that the biostatistics departments throughout the country are starting to change their name to biostatistics and health data science or something like that. We just started our first year of a health data science master's program. Before we had a certificate program. You have to do that for a few years before you can get a new program. I don't know how the university does it because we have a data science university-wide program. Biostat's part of it, stat, bioinformatics, electrical engineering, computer science.
Biomedical engineering.
Biomedical engineering, but STAT has their own data science program, and now we have our own health data science program. We haven't changed our name, we're still just the Department of Biostatistics, but it's interesting how time goes on. 10, 15 years ago, all the departments are changing their name to biostatistics and bioinformatics, or biostatistics and genetics or something like that. So now they're changing them again.
Well, that's marketing as well.
Yes,
I guess you need to get your product tailored to the customers that are going there.
So we started this data science program. We were targeting over a 4-year period to ramp up and get about 35 students in it.
Okay. Is that a lot?
One year we got over 100 applications and we're already at the 35. So maybe not that high. We might be at 25 to 30. I don't remember the exact numbers this year. But
and it's I don't get the numbers over here. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that
So when I started in 2001 at the University of Michigan, we had maybe 11 tenured faculty and a couple research track faculty. So that was 14. And we shot for about 15 to 20 master's students a year, and then a few PhD students, however many we could afford to support. The last 2 or 3 years, we've been getting over 100 master's students coming. We always admit more, but those that matriculate and actually come has, gone 5 times
Right.
what, when
What it used to
in
be,
about
yeah.
20 years, about 5
Okay.
times more. Part of that is because our faculty have grown now too. We have about 35 tenured or tenure track faculty and maybe a dozen research faculty now.
But with the numbers, the question that you ask, it's actually, once we start going into this numbers game, like I know at my university, the data science program the master's program has 600 students,
Oh, okay.
which is, it's huge.
Where?
At
Columbia?
Indiana University.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But this is data science.
Data
Data
science.
science.
Okay.
not
Science,
masters.
yes.
But the
The
thing is,
undergrad or master's?
masters.
Okay.
But the thing is, I taught some courses in their program, and the quality of the students, it's so varied that, some of them, they don't know what a logarithm is. And,
All right.
it's one of those things that you don't need high math, but you need some math. You need to be able to multiply, let's say, 2 matrices, which is not, something that you learn in kindergarten, but at some point, if you want to work in the field, if you want to work with data, you should learn it. I hope you would agree with that.
I agree, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting factor when you say about the quality and the certain skill set that you have to have. And that's why I come back to the question around, because then I guess it's the similar kind of a element when you interviewed and going into business as well. There's certain elements that you just have to know. And you mentioned it's both. Yeah, you need to know the models. You need to know what the how the mathematics or the statistics work. But you need to be able, I guess, to turn it into a code or have a skill set around that as well. Right.
So the code versus the math skills, I think it's also. I think the primary thing is your ability to think. So your ability to solve problems and which perspective you come from. That's not, we have kind of candidates for degrees coming from different fields. They might be coming from biology or computer science or mathematics or so. And it's not, at the end of the day, in my opinion at least, it's not as important, what your bachelor's degree was in, but your ability to adjust to to new knowledge.
Right.
Like, when I was going through school, I went through math. I had no idea about biology, and now I'm working in like brain imaging, similar to Tim. And, maybe you can say a bit about that, how you learned to work in brain imaging, where I think we both make some difference, you more than I, but, it's, we had to learn this stuff, yeah?
Yeah. The different students we have, we have minimum requirements. You have to have your standard 3 years of calculus.
3 courses.
3 semesters
Three
of
semesters,
calculus.
okay,
3
yeah,
semesters
yeah.
of calculus. So Calc 1, 2, and 3. Linear algebra and a course in statistics or probability at the undergraduate level. And that's all of our master's requirements. And if you have a B or higher in those from a decent university, or you'll be admitted usually.
All right.
And then it's up to you. For our master's students, we have so many now, we can't fund many of them anymore. So, but a lot of people are coming and either working their way through, or their parents are helping them out, or they're taking loans out. I'm not sure which, but so I was going to say, the diverse type of people we have, this was quite a while ago. We had one student, she came in with a master's or with a bachelor's degree in, I believe, Russian literature or something like that.
Wow.
But she had the
It's
minimum
close.
requirements. She turned out to be one of our best master's students.
Absolutely, yeah.
She got admitted to our PhD program. I think she dropped out after a year or two. She didn't want to continue.
Fair enough.
But yeah, she was one of the better students. So.
This is to prove your points around the ability to think and to actually.
Yeah.
It's not.
And it's exactly the same on in the business world as well. I think we've touched on it in Dublin when we had the conversation. You can learn the skills, but a certain attitude or certain actually ability to like logically connect data or do things. Those are the things that it's really hard to train. I guess
Also,
you get it or not. Yeah.
Another thing like common sense. That's this.
Right.
I know we mentioned that a few times already, but this is very hard to train. Like with the you must have had experiences with students who would be analyzing data with like, you know, it's one of those things that now with this availability of the software, of the methods and so on, you can just get a bucket of data, throw it into like the computer, and then get something out.
Right.
And people do it. Students, it's not only students, people working in the companies and so on do it, and then you get those results, you get the findings, and it's like they don't even think about it, that it doesn't make sense. You scratch your head, it's like, no, there must have been something. It's not like something wrong, but once you get the results, you still have to interpret them. Right. And this is a big thing, and I would be very interested in how you approach that. How do you teach students to interpret what they get from the data?
Common sense, critical thinking, and being inventive are three things that we try to teach once you get a PhD student, because you go ask them to analyze data, and a little idiom here. I'm a hammer, everything looks like a nail to me. You're a screwdriver, everything looks like a screw to you. And that's what they do. And you have to really think about the data, how it was collected, the design of the study, what they want to get out of the study, right? What their questions are. And, you know, if you're working with somebody in the medical field, you have to be able to bridge those language gaps, if you want to call them language gaps, right? As they think differently and speak differently. And just some advice to students. One thing that goes a long way with working with people in other fields, learn a little bit and take interest in what they do. They love it, and they love to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And it goes a long way as far as collaborations go.
And people who don't love it, at least I learned that this was kind of, it is my modus operandi, that if somebody doesn't value what I'm doing, I'm not the best collaborator of them, and we usually don't work well together. And the nice thing for us in the field that we work in, we have those choices. So one of the differences, you mentioned students graduating, going to like Amazon, Apple, and so on. So yes, you get paid more, but if your boss decides, okay, this project is over, there's not like you work still on that project. We have this ability in academia to choose the projects that we work with, to choose the collaborators. And again, it's one of those things that, and I would love to hear about your experience in that, you know, how do you choose your collaborators? How do you, how do you work on what you want to work?
We'll get back to that. I'm going to have that brew in my back of my mind for a while.
That's fine. But to your point around, you're not a good collaborator if someone's not interested, or doesn't value the work you do. I think that's one of the basis of collaboration. There can't be any collaboration if you don't show this, at least in my opinion. We watched the show Ted Lasso, didn't we, together? And he had this famous scene, it's all over the internet, don't be judgmental, be curious, or something like that. And I think it's a really good thing that say, like, to your point as well, have interest and learn a little bit about the other person's and a lot of collaborators, if they've already collected data and they want you to analyze it or have your student do it, they have their own ideas of what they think we should do. Sure.
So don't be judgmental. Listen to them and see, and then, maybe learn about the data, and then, you can say, well, maybe this approach might work a little bit better. You just don't say you're an idiot and I'm going to do it however I want to.
No.
You're not going to get very far with that kind of an attitude.
This is something I also, what you were saying
10 years ago, not everyone, but people come up, oh, I have this data. Can we run a lasso on it? So, well,
it's not Ted Lasso. It's a method.
That was a good segue, though. Huh? Good one. That didn't even occur to me. And it's like, well, let me see your data, and they only have 6 covariates and 100. So you don't really need to do a lasso here. And then they explain to them what the purpose of the model or the method does and why it's not appropriate here.
It just reminded me of a story. I had this one collaborator who, he would go to a conference and he would see somebody used some method and this method gave results. he would come back, he's like, can we use that method?
Right.
I'm like, okay, let me look at it. And then I would say, well, yes, but this is not the question you are trying to answer. So it's not like what you were saying, Tim, about, if you have a hammer, everything is a nail to you. Well, sometimes there are different, you have to screw something, like a screw, not screw something up, but so you have to use a screwdriver.
And this is a nice loop. This is a nice lasso or a loop to our first ever episode when we've talked about remember the Pareto and I was making the point that the especially in business it's really easy now to see something on the internet or see a new book or a new bestseller or a new methodology which is just like you said giving some results in a very specific area or field of work, and it's really easy to just grab it and make it, a standard. We have to use it, and we have to put it in, So, I guess again we're again finding similarities between the two worlds in the conversation.
Well, the collaborators that I've worked with or talked to, I don't think it's more that they really want to help their patients. And if they're doing research, they're looking for, a lot of people I've worked with over the years have been oncologists or radiation oncologists, and, they work with people who are going to die.
Sure.
And they want to help them as much as they can. So they're searching for anything that's going to help their patient.
Absolutely, yeah.
Either, to make them more comfortable, live a little bit longer, or maybe even cure them. So anything they hear that's new that might help, with analyzing the data to show that some treatment works or doesn't work better, they want to try it.
Fair enough.
I don't think
safer, it has fewer side effects, or
exactly.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I don't take it as them not knowing. It's them really wanting to do what's best for their patient. And,
okay.
And if
That's interesting.
if they don't have much money from the NIH to study 10,000 patients, they get money for 30 or 40 patients. You try to squeeze blood out of a stone, right?
Absolutely. I haven't heard this one. I'm learning, right? Squeeze blood out of a stone. I need to get this one.
That's a saying in the States, at least.
If you say so.
If you find the topics in the discussion interesting, please do subscribe and push the subscribe button, because that will allow us to make many more interesting subjects into our conversation.
Yeah, we will have guests, we will have, we'll talk about other interesting topics, so let us know. What do you think?
Let us know what you think and push that button, please.